on both the Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area social media and El Pueblo social media. You can enjoy it again and again with family and friends. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be starting in just a few minutes. As you're joining us now, you'll see that some of the panelists have some wonderful backgrounds from the Santa Monica Mountains. So hopefully you have a chance to visit. One of the great things about the pandemic, if you can say anything straight, is that people are getting back out into our local parks, our local and national parks. And it's a great, safe, and socially distant thing to do. And as you'll hear from some of our panelists today, just because you might think that you're a city kid and maybe nature's not for you, it's not true. There's something at the Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area and El Pueblo for everyone. From all walks of life, all folks with limited mobility, folks with different interests. If you're interested in history, multicultural, if you want to learn more about early Indigenous life, there's some wonderful educational centers and digital tours that the Santa Monica Mountains offers, as well as El Pueblo. And talk about some of the tribes. El Pueblo is the birthplace of Los Angeles. And so the tribe that was here earliest, one of the most prominent, was the Gabrielino Tongva tribe. And so we talk about that in several of our digital tours. So if you are enticed to learn more about nature or about early Los Angeles or Southern California history, make sure to visit us on social media, again, at Santa Monica Mountains or at El Pueblo, LA. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. So make sure to grab your snacks, grab your water. And if you, once again, didn't have a chance to submit your questions to social media prior to today's panel, don't worry, it's not too late. You can use the chat function. So if you don't know how to use your chat function, just go to the very bottom of your Zoom screen. You'll see a thing that looks like a talking comic books speaking box. And you just click on that and you can join the chat and you can let the host know your questions, and we'll be asking some of those questions. Not all of them, we'll try our best to get to as many of them as we can, because I know they're all going to be wonderful and great, because some of the ones we got on social media were fantastic and we are so excited. Some of those questions we've never been asked before. And some of them are popular questions. So some of the most popular questions, we made sure to make those some of our general questions to ask the panelists today. And these ladies are anything but general. They're all phenomenal women with amazing jobs, because women are a crucial part of supporting our local and national parks and keeping them alive and thriving, making the world better through education, through preservation, and safety. Every little bit counts in getting out to nature. And I think with this pandemic, one thing that we're noticing is outside is pretty great. And especially in trees, it's healthy to be outside, be in nature. Scientific studies have shown that. So we are going to get started. So just one last time, hello, and thank you for joining us for this special event in honor of National Women's History Month. Women are an integral part of operating national parks across the country, and they serve as conservationists, fire and aviation management, historians, and so much more. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with some amazing women who have unique and exciting careers with the National Park Service's Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. These women are an integral part of protecting and sharing the stories of our local parks, and they all reach this point in their careers in a different, unique way. If you've ever wanted to join the National Park Service or interested in visiting a park as part of a safe and socially distant outing, then stay tuned for some fun insights from these just frankly remarkable women. My name is Michelle Garcia-Ortiz, and I have the pleasure of moderating today's panel. I work at El Pueblo Historical Monument, which is a historic state park operated by the city of Los Angeles. Here at El Pueblo, we are privileged to operate the Gateway to Nature in partnership with the National Park Service and the United States Forest Service. The Gateway is a free educational learning space to share some of the wonders of our local parks and forests with visitors. And today is the second in our series of panels with members of the Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area team. If you missed the last panel about Latinx women of SAMO, or Santa Monica Mountains, we'll say SAMO a lot today, you can find it on the National Park Service's Facebook page. Now, let's meet these amazing panelists. Today, we are joined by Jessica Cooper, who helps preserve and protect our nation's parks as a law enforcement ranger. She joined the National Park Service through the Pro Ranger program, an academic intake program established to recruit and train law enforcement rangers, as well as increase diversity in the National Park Service. During times of crisis like the Woolsey Fire, she uses her firsthand knowledge to participate in search and rescue and provide direction to fire crews. We're also joined by Eva Larson, who is a full-blooded member of the Navajo Nation and part of a team that helped develop the Satwiwa Native American Indian Cultural Center. As an archaeologist and archaeological technician, she travels through the parks to explore and find undiscovered artifacts. She is part of a team that helps analyze, preserve, and interpret these artifacts for park visitors to understand and appreciate prehistoric and historic history. We're also joined by Mira Calveresi. Oh, I just like picture that, sorry. Is an education interpretive ranger who is a part of the Every Kid in a Park program, facilitates students' explorations through nature by sharing fun facts and stories about the daily life of local early California indigenous plants and how they grow, and insights into local wildlife. These days, she partners with the California State Parks to connect students with nature in digital classrooms. And of course, we're joined finally by Katy Delaney, who is a scientist and more specifically, a wildlife ecologist who helps protect and preserve endangered species in our national parks, as well as reintroducing them back into their native lands to live and thrive. She also mentors and trains future generations of wildlife ecologists and conservationists. Thank you all so much for being here today. During these tough times, people all over the country have had the opportunity to reconnect with their local public and national parks as a safe and socially distant activity. And some of them have loved it so much that they are interested in careers with the parks. So today, I want to reach out to you with some popular questions related to visiting and working in our nation's parks. And just a friendly reminder, for those of you joining us live, we hope you join the fun by submitting some questions to the Zoom host, and we'll ask a few of them later in the program. But the questions we're asking today are based off questions we already received. So all of you ladies have a fantastically different story about how you came to work with the National Park Service. So let's go around the Zoom room. Some highlights, just a quick highlight on how you reached this point in your careers or how you started to work with the National Park Service. Let's start with Eva.
Hi, I was a student at UCLA, and I became aware of the Satwiwa site because of there was a building competition that went on for the UCLA Architecture School that built the Culture Center. So they reached out to the Native American Indian Studies Center and the Native American Indians Student Association. And so we went out and met Bill Holmes and became very familiar with the site and was very taken with it. And then after I graduated, I joined the board of Friends of Satwiwa, which is a nonprofit support organization for the Satwiwa Center. And I started my relationship as a volunteer.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Let's bounce on over to Katy. Can you tell us a little bit how you started working with the National Park Service?
Sure. I was also a student at UCLA. I was a grad student, and Seth Riley, who's my current supervisor, is also a wildlife ecologist at Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. And he started coming to UCLA to do some genetic work on some of the carnivores that they're studying, coyotes and mountain lions and bobcats. And we met there. And then later on, I did a postdoc with Seth, and a job opened up for another wildlife ecologist at the park. And I was lucky enough to land the job.
Wow. So it sounds like it's got to be a Bruin. No, there's Bruins are just awesome. No, lots of controller. I think Jess came from out of state. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started working in the National Park Service?
Yes, yeah, I was gonna say I'm recognizing a theme here because I was also a student. On the other side of the country, though, I'm from Philadelphia. I was a student at Temple University where I got recruited by the Pro Ranger program to join the Park Service. And when I was in college, during the summers between my sophomore and junior and my junior and senior years, I interned at parks in the DC area, and pretty much fell in love with the Park Service. And by the time I graduated from college, I went to the seasonal law enforcement training program in Philly and landed my first permanent job with the National Park Service at Independence Hall. And I was there, I think, for about 5 years and transferred over here. So that's kind of my story where I'm at now.
Sounds like you like to work in beautiful places. That sounds perfect for sharing. Mira, can you tell us how you started working with the National Park Service?
Sure. Like the rest of the panel, I was a student who graduated. I just recently graduated from Cal State Channel Islands, and I had a faculty advisor, Don Rodriguez, who actually connected me to an internship, and it was working in community engagement with Los Angeles. And from that point on, I fell in love with being able to connect the community to their local national parks. So.
Thank you. So I think we all agree it is important to connect with nature. And studies have shown that there are mental and physical wellness benefits for children who connect with nature. And prior to the pandemic, the Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area hosted some amazing in-person field trips, but their great work hasn't stopped. Nothing is done. Mary, can you tell us a little bit about your the work you were doing to provide online learning opportunities for students?
Sure. So like pretty much the entire flux of educators, whether they're formal or outdoor educators, we've had to reassess what we are doing and use the tools available to us. And for us at Santa Monica Mountains, we've jumped into doing distance learning. And what that entails is basically doing our best to bring the kids into the park, even if it's from the comfort of their own homes or their virtual classrooms. We've learned a huge skill set from other parks, such as the California State Park Support Program, Channel Islands, Rocky Mountain Dinosaur. They've been doing this for a long time. And so they provided us with some really great advice on how to bring students into the parks virtually. And we've been able to kind of continue doing that and learn some new ways to build a sense of community and connection, even though it's us guiding them as opposed to them joining us on the hikes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And if you're interested in learning more about online learning with the Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area, we're going to be sharing some social media information at the end of the panel, so you can sign up for your very own interactive experience. One of the wonderful things about the National Park Service is that they are working to increase diversity and representation in their staffing and educational programming. Jessica, would you share a little bit of information, more than you shared, because you already highlighted a little bit, about the Pro Ranger program and its efforts to increase diversity in park staffing?
Yeah, it is a program that started, golly, I think back in 2011. So it's been a while, around for, I guess, about 10 years now. I joined the Park Service, probably even before that, because I joined in 2012. So yeah, who knows how long it's been around for. But yeah, like you said, it's an effort to increase diversity in the Park Service by looking for, I'll use myself as an example. I studied political science in college, and I wanted to work in public service. I didn't know what that avenue was going to look like when I graduated from college. But basically the program, we're looking for people like that who wanted to work in public service, wants to help people, and try to like get us out of the city. Because I was a city kid, and like I said, my first permanent job was in an urban park in the city on the East Coast. But yeah, it's basically to find people that would not have the opportunity otherwise to, one, go to a big national park like the Santa Monica Mountains or like Yosemite or Yellowstone, and pique our interest and get us to really, golly, what am I trying to say? I guess to like really enjoy the parks more and give us the opportunity to do that and want to protect the resources.
That's beautiful. And I was glad that you highlighted local or urban parks. That's such a great term, because I think some folks just miss, Pueblo is a city park. We're a state district park here in the middle of the city in the heart of Los Angeles. And there's some great state parks. And that's a great way to kind of get your feet wet, as it were, to kind of just get reconnected to nature. Like so many folks come here to go bird watching or just paint like they're near for something. And so urban parks are a great way to do things. So here at Pueblo, we share some stories about early Indigenous history in Los Angeles. And as we highlight the stories of the Tongva, or Gabrielino Tongva, Eva, would you please share with us some of the work the Satwiwa Native American Indian Cultural Center does and what guests can enjoy when they visit in the future?
Well, it was a combination of Charlie Cook and Phil Holmes of the National Park Service, who came together with the dream of buying the area that we now know as Satwiwa Ranch, Satwiwa, and it was originally slated to be condos.
Oh.
So yeah, a lot of condos, but the area was set aside. It was purchased, and we wanted to create a culture center where all cultures could come together and learn. Okay, so native and non-native as well. But with the native population, there's a number of cultures. There's the Eastern, the Southeastern tribes. So it's a place where all of these people can come. And also people north of the border from Canada and south from the Mexico and Central America. It is something where there can be a storyteller, there can be authors, there can be gourd makers, dream catchers makers. So it's sometimes it's a hands-on situation, and sometimes it's more of a pick up and share with visual items that the artists have brought in. And so that's something that can be taken care. I believe it's, and Mary can confirm this, if it's what day the guest host program is. It's on Sunday or Saturday, Mary? Oh,
on Sundays, yes.
On Sundays, okay. So it's put out in the Outlook and you can follow it. It's a great place to bring your children. It's a great place for all ages to hike in the area. And they've done a really nice job there of creating a native garden. And so everyone needs to come out and see it, to experience it.
It sounds like you do. Thank you. And one of the things I love that you pointed out is that it seems like every time you visit, you can have the opportunity to have a different experience. So it's a definitely multi-visit place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's also, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, but it's also a great place to see the four seasons, because although, Southern California, we don't get snow, but we can get fall, and you can see the fall where the grasses turn brown, the trees lose their leaves, so it's a place that you can go back and connect with nature and learn the circle of life, which I think is very important and is something that all Native people have a close connection with.
Thank you. I love it when people break those California stereotypes. We have seasons. We have all four of them. Especially here in Southern California, we can go skiing and surf hiking bugs. Like, it's not for me, but there's a little something for everyone at all different skill levels, especially at the Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area. You can go Satwiwa and sit down and read. That's my favorite kind of exercise, sitting down. Or you could just go out and have a nice walk in a stream. Someone that knows a lot about streams is Katy, as you can see from the flyer. She's just a wonderful scientist and female scientist and wildlife ecologist, and she's doing some wonderful work with preservation. Katy, can you tell us why you think it's important to bring the California red-legged frog population back into the Santa Monica Mountains? And I know that the Woolsey fire greatly impacted the project. What does the future look like for these frogs?
Yeah, so I think of it as a restoration project. So parks around the world will spend money on removing weeds and planting native plants to restore habitat. And so I kind of think of our project with restoring the California red-legged frog back to the Santa Monica Mountains as similar to that. So we're trying to bring back the red-legged frog because they were basically went extinct in our area, between 50 and 100 years ago. And so we're trying to restore them and increase the biodiversity of the area. And so you mentioned the Woolsey fire. The Woolsey fire was pretty devastating to the project. We had about 5 years of reintroductions going, and we have a source population that we take the frogs from, and we put them into these reintroduction streams. And unfortunately, all of the streams burned. So that fire was so big that the source population and all of our reintroduction streams burned. One of them has really recovered really well. A couple of them look okay. But really what happens with a fire is, yes, it burns everything, and it burns the trees, and it burns all the vegetation on the banks and things that the frogs use to sort of hide in. But what happens is after a fire and then it rains, there's sedimentation and all the dirt comes down off of the hillsides because there's no plants holding it back up. So all of our pools filled in, and these guys really like big pools to breed in. So even though we have frogs that are still sort of left here and there, sort of spotty, there's nowhere really for them to breed on their own. So the future in a couple sites looks pretty good, and a future in a couple sites looks maybe like that we'll need a few years for recovery. But as it rains more and more, that those pools and the mud gets scoured out, and then hopefully the frogs will do well. So one of the really good things is that source population is really important, where we actually take the frogs from to put them into the reintroduction sites, though that site's doing fine. And so we will always have that source population to rely on, hopefully. But it did survive the Woolsey fire fairly well.
That's good news, because I know in huge impact on the park and some of the trails, and just some of the trails were closed as a result of that fire.
Yeah. Oh, were you asking Jess? Sorry. Yeah.
No, I don't answer. Sure.
Lots of trails were closed. Yes.
Were there any other major impacts to the trails, Jess? But thank you, Katie.
Well, I mean, the reason they were closed was because they were not safe. And I think that's probably all I can think of. We closed the trails after the Woolsey fire, and we closed the parking lots, essentially the entire park, right? Because it just was not a safe environment for anyone to be in. That's all. I think that's really the only reason why we closed it, and the only kind of impact or damage that we had was, it just wasn't safe to be on.
I think it's so important. I think one thing that gets talked about in the public is animal safety, which is so crucial, important, and plant safety, but just you're really working on guest safety, and partnering with the guests to make sure they know how to follow the signage and which trails are safe and all those different things. That's really wonderful work. And you get to interact with the public in that special way. Eva, can you tell us, as you've been journeying around, what are some of the cool artifacts that you found at SAMO?
Let me unmute myself. We find a variety of tools which would be used. They're made out of stone. They are scrapers, which would help take when Native Americans would kill a deer, they would use all of the parts of the deer, and with the scraper, they would help to scrape off the inside fats and such from the hide, so the hide could be cured. They also had their knives, which was also made from stone. And we found some of those stones. What's really, I think, is cool, and you can probably Google this, but they have drill points. And if you look at them, they're made very narrow up, and it looks just like a drill, but it's made out of rock. So it really took a lot of technique and knowledge, and probably a steep learning curve to learn how to create these, and which they would use then to make holes in shells, in leather. So that's some of the I think the cool things that we find. There are always arrowheads that we find, and those are cool. And I'm using the word cool too much, but it really awesome. It's awesome when you're out on a hike and you find something, or you're out doing a survey and you've been looking all day and finally you find something. That's really great. So that's some of the things. We have had some stone bowls that were found. Those are not, in the past, there have been some things which were made out of fibers that were found. So I'm talking about probably 50 years ago. And those are remarkable because to find them, because those don't last unless they're in a cave, or, although we don't have peat bogs, they are prone to fall apart and dissipate back into the soil. So, but those have been found, sandals, woven sandals. There's also been some artifacts which relate around rituals that we believe they were used for, which had inlaid stones and shells and feathers. So the Chumash and the other surrounding tribes really did utilize a number of things that was found in nature, and they found a way of being creative with them. So
very cool. I'm gonna say cool too, because I like that word. You're so cool, you're free. And it sounds like you are finding artifacts you're gonna attract future Jess Coopers. But because Jess found artifacts when she was young in Burns Nest. What should guests do if they happen upon an arrowhead? What should they do? What do you think?
Oh, that's really hard, because there's excitement. I know that they will feel, but what should be done is you should be left in place, and then a picture taken, and then maybe you can put it like under a plant, nearby, take a picture of that, and then send it to SAMO and to the visitor center, and they will send it on to us. So a lot of the artifacts we want to leave in place, because once you collect a piece, you then need to take care of it forever. So, so that's one thing that people should do. Also, a lot of times people will, are very innocent and they find stuff and they think it's cool. But keep in mind that you take it home, it's in your house, the memory, how excited you were. And then, you get older, you clean out your drawer. What do you do with it? You end up throwing it away. Or yes, that's what people do. Or it ends up going on to somebody, gets inherited by somebody else who has no idea, has no knowledge about the history. So they then will throw it away, or spend a lot of time trying to find some
historian heart.
Yes.
Speaking of,
but the problem is, Michelle, is that once it's taken out of context, we can't be detectives and figure out the rest of the story about why that was there, how it was made, or anything. So.
No. And then Mary would have nothing to talk about because she's got all these great stories for kids. Mary, could you tell us a little bit about how Every Kid's Outdoors works with bringing kids from out of Ventura County into the Santa Monica Mountains? People are asking us, because we mentioned it earlier, what Every Kid's Outdoors.
Sure. Yeah, and Eva sets it up really well, because education is such a important part of how we interact with the outdoors, and that desire of why can't I take it with me? And so I think it's because we want to share it with everybody, and we want it to be intact so that we can continue to go and find these places. And so the Every Kid Outdoors program, which was originally the Every Kid Out in a Park, began as an initiative to remove some barriers to get kids outside. And so it focuses on fourth grade because it's that magical time that, first off, all the curriculum seems to work really well for us, but more importantly, it's kids start to really realize the world is a bigger place. And so it helps get kids outside by providing them for the whole year that they're a fourth grader, free pass and access to federal lands. So it's not just the national parks, it's also the National Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, a whole slew of public lands essentially. And they can come to these places and bring their families with them, and the entrance fees are not going to be something they have to pay. So then to bring it a little more targeted, what happened is the National Park Foundation, which is a really awesome friends group that the National Park Service has, love this idea so much that they actually they identified a few parks like Santa Monica Mountains, and they made us what we call focus cities. So they gave us a grant to, again, push through some of those extra barriers that can prevent students and their families from accessing parks. And being in Southern California, this is like, you're not a stranger to it. We spend a lot of time on our freeways. We are a commuter's place. And when you're talking about the second largest school district in the United States, Los Angeles Unified, you have to focus your funding on academics. So providing transportation funding is not always a priority. So what we do at the park is, with the help of the National Park Foundation, is we provide bus grants. Wow. And so that gets the option for teachers, and we try to get the whole entire grade level. It's not just one class, it's like the full fourth grade, to the parks. And we use that word park really big because we have so many partners that are helping us do this, just like at El Pueblo. We also have our state park partners, the Audubon Center at Debs. All of these places are creating opportunities for students to get that, and sometimes we use this term stepping stone experience, because that's what our park is. If you're new to hiking, if you're new to the national parks, if you've never seen yourself as someone in the national park experience, Santa Monica Mountains is that place to like start that love. And what we try to do with our education programming is like, maybe provoke that interest, so that then kids and their families will go and explore the rest of the park system, which luckily here in California, we have a lot of public lands available for people to explore. So that's kind of how we took this big idea and we scaled it to something focused so that we can get that next generation of park users out there.
Thank you. I know. And once you take advantage of that program and you get one of those passports, don't always forget it like I do. Katy, so do you have any advice for girls or young women who want to become ecologists and work in the National Park Service, want to be female scientists?
Yes.
Also general, sorry.
Being a scientist or being an ecologist, I mean, just being a research scientist has a really high level of satisfaction, job satisfaction. It kind of ranks as one of the high level jobs that people enjoy. But it doesn't pay a lot. So if you want to, I mean, I'm not complaining about my salary, that's for sure, but it does take a long time. There's a lot of education that goes into it. So, start early. I think a big piece of advice is, make sure it's right for you. I mean, my love of animals and my love of the outdoors started when I was a kid, like a young kid, and that sort of carried me through. Right now, we have an internship program that we mentor recent college grads, and they all really pretty much are coming out of college with like wildlife biology or biology degrees. They want some fieldwork experience because they want to try to figure out what they want to do as a career. And so I always recommend that volunteering while you're in school and then volunteering after college. And unfortunately, there are a lot of unpaid internships. It's a lot of hardship. There's not a lot of money in this because people really love the job. And unfortunately, it really then caters towards people who can afford it. And so that's a whole nother issue that we're trying to work on. But yeah, it's a good opportunity to sort of volunteer when you're in college, do these internships after college, make sure that you sort of expand your interests or whatever your interests are, and be nice to everybody. It's a really small community. Everybody knows everybody else, and look for these opportunities. And a lot of them arise because you know someone and they need help or they need seasonal help. And just because we are talking about women, the lower sort of like undergrad and graduate level for women in science, and women in my science, I should say, I shouldn't speak for all sciences, but like in ecology and biology, there's a lot of women. It's more than 50%. I mean, there's a lot of women that start out, but we still haven't sort of broken that ceiling. There's not the professors and the supervisors at USGS and National Park Service, they're not a lot of women there. So it's sort of this typical thing where you have a lot of women that are doing a lot of work sort of on the lower levels, but to get to that higher where you would be an equivalent of executive, we still have work to do.
Okay, thank you so much. So I want to kind of extend that out because you gave some amazing advice, and throughout the panel I've heard you guys say, because you said volunteerism, friendliness, different programs, because one of the guests, Myra, asked, how can I become a ranger? And there's so many different types of rangers. Just what do you recommend? You're like, don't ask me first. Okay.
Well, that's the question, right? I get that question almost every day that I'm out working. How do I become a ranger? Because it's the coolest, funnest job, right? And there are many different avenues. I think the best way probably kind of is what Katy kind of said. It's to figure out what you want to do. The best way is to go to your local park and volunteer at first. And if you were volunteering here at Santa Monica Mountains, you can go on a ride along with me. You can probably go out with Katy and see what she does. And because there are just so many different jobs, I think that's probably the best way to get your foot in, just to see what kind of job it is that you want and if you would like it. And then, yeah, pick your path, a pathway student, or if you want to get an internship some way, or if you want to straight up apply on usajobs.gov. That's how you would get the permanent position. But I think the best way is to find your local park and to look for volunteer opportunities there.
Thank you. Because yeah, Katy told us you do it because you love it. Mary, can you tell us a little bit about the Pathways program?
Yeah, it's kind of getting piggybacking off of what Jess was saying. There are these opportunities for students, college students, to get into a position where they'll get their learning and growth, and also in some of these positions, there's actually a hiring authority access. So that way, when they've completed it, they can move into a position, and that's a really great way of trying to find a way of getting students into some of these seasonal and also permanent jobs. And there's also some of our other opportunities. We do have youth programming that also creates positions. We have our community ambassador programs. So it's not just that you have to go to the National Park Service. Again, getting into we have a lot of partner agencies that are doing similar work and trying to help youth find ways into these careers and try it out. But seasonal work, I think, is also a really great place to start because it provides you the opportunity to see the different types of parks that are out there if you have the ability to move around.
Thank you. Another guest asked, and I want to ask her on this really quick, do you folks have a favorite park other than Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area? Or one that you'd really like to visit? Let's say that, so we don't say favorite. Let's start with Eva, since she has such an expressive answer.
Oh my, I grew up near Zion National Park, so I'm used to big, spectacular, over-the-top monuments of rocks. And then, there are places, a little place outside of Flagstaff called Walnut Creek, which is a wonderful little park where you get to hike down and you get to see some of the original structures that were built there inside of the rocks.
Oh.
And, there's also a number of places. There was petroglyphs outside of Albuquerque, which I thought were fantastic. And it was very mind-boggling, like, you know, how diligent someone had to be to etch petroglyphs into a rock, because that's not easy. And also just love, because I was so close to it, was the Grand Canyon.
Oh,
So
Grand Canyon's amazing.
yeah, so I hope to add some East Coast sites to my, you know, to my bucket, or in my bucket list anyway. So I hope that happens.
I know there's some great ones out there.
Okay.
Mitigate. Okay, Katie, what about you?
Yeah, I did a bunch of field work on the Channel Islands, on Santa Cruz Island, because I studied island scrub jays for my graduate school. So so I love Channel Islands. I love Santa Cruz Island. I haven't been to that many parks actually, but I went to Grand Canyon for a training a couple of years ago, and sort of showed up at sunset and was wandering around like, where's this giant canyon? You know, like we were wandering around this village, like, where is this big hole in the ground? You know, it should be somewhere. And I sort of wandered there, and I was totally blown away by it. It's just one of the most stunning, most beautiful places I've ever seen. And so, yeah, I loved the Grand Canyon. It's very stereotypical for Park Service, but man, there's a reason why it's a national park. It's really beautiful.
Oh yeah, I always, when my relatives come from out of the country, I always just make the trek, and I'm always, every time. But yeah, one of the things you both pointed out is that, you know, pick your flavor of what kind of national park. You want to go to an island? You want to go see some rocks? You want to see some trees? There's a national park for you. Mary, what about you?
I'm like right there with Eva. It's really hard. I was really lucky growing up. My family took us on road trips, and so parks in a lot of ways were the backdrop of those memories. So definitely Grand Canyon stands out just because it's such an impressive and beautiful place. I got to go to Yellowstone, and that was a really fun opportunity just to get out there and see it. And I'm thankful that my parents and my siblings and all of us got that opportunity to do that together. Obviously, Yosemite's nearby as well. And then I have like a really special memory. When I was in high school, my grandmother took me out to Washington, D.C., and we did a lot of the monument tours, and just it's so funny because my background and definitely my jam is more of the national parks, but the natural resources. But when I think about DC, some of the monuments out there just like are so impressive to me. I think that really epitomizes what's so great about the national park system is you can find just about anything that can speak to your experiences and provoke your sense of connection and wonder.
That's so true. Especially as a historian, there's so many places on the East Coast or like in the Midwest that I want to visit, like historic landmarks to Harriet Tubman and things like that. We just celebrate Black History Month. So, oh man, there's so many great just women's history landmarks. Jess, what's some of your favorite parks that you haven't visited or you want to visit?
It's so hard. It sounds like a cliche, but it really is difficult to, there's a park in every state, for crying out loud, like over 400 parks. So it's really hard to just pick your favorite. But I'm going to use this time to plug the National Historical Parks and the National Historic Sites, because I think they're equally as important as our national parks, and as our preserves. I think there's a park for everyone, and I like history, so I really like the historic sites. I like the historical parks. Some of my favorites are obviously Independence and Boston, African American, and Martin Luther King in Atlanta. Just the stories that they tell, and the kind of the things that you learn, and the Rangers are just so smart there. So those are the kinds that I like.
They're amazing. You're walking through history. When I was in Boston, the only thing that stopped me from running around saying the British are coming was my mother, and I was like 35. But yeah, one of the things, if you're going to visit some of those historic sites, they're amazing. Make sure you do research before visiting the parks. Find out park hours. Find out restrictions, like with Dr. King's house. It's like a first come first served thing. So you want to make sure you're researching and knowing the best way to be the best visitor to whatever park or historic site that you're visiting. Katy, I just want to jump gears because we talked a little bit about women in STEAM and mentorship, but why do you think mentorship is an important part of National Park Service, especially for women?
I think we can learn a lot from each other, and I really enjoy, like, the recent grads that I mentor, I guess, or supervise in their internships. They're all around the same age, in their early 20s. I'm getting older, so I like getting to be sort of connected to that generation and the young people. I think I hope it's inspiring to them to see how I work and how I live, and how my career is fulfilling to me. So I hope that influences them. They do excellent work for me, and I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity to work with them. And they're really so energetic and so enthusiastic and so helpful to the science going on in the park.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. If it wasn't for the younger generation, my Instagram would never get checked. I don't know how to check messages. They keep me current and, more open-minded, which is amazing. Okay. So recently, a lot of people talking to the public, especially going to the parks more and realizing how important it is to protect our public lands and national historic sites. Please, we're going to just go around and just really briefly just let me know why you think it's important to protect and preserve our public land. Mary?
I think it's obviously for not just for ourselves now, but also thinking about those that are going to come in the future. And these things are not infinite. These things, if we don't care for them, if we don't take care of them, if we don't find why they're important to people, they can disappear and go away. So I think when we think about this, it's thinking about longevity and not just us as the now, but what's to come. So that's why I think that's important.
Thank you. What about you, Jess? Why do you think it's important to protect and preserve our public? Oh no, you're on mute. Oh, it won't let you unmute? Oh no. Eva, can you unmute and tell us why you think it's important?
Okay, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in our mission to protect these resources for everyone in the world, and also for our future generations. And I think it is our mission. It is important because these are our stories that we have chosen to tell. Stories are important to everyone in our country, and it's basically what makes us us. I think that's why it's important.
My feelings. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's what has helped tell the country's story. Eva, what about you?
Hearing everybody's answers, and it's like we're all in a garden. We're diverse, and we need to maintain that diversity, because we can't all be sunflowers. We can't all be roses. We need to be the flowers that attract the butterflies or the hummingbirds. We need diversity because it's important, and it will help us survive in the next generation to survive. We have to be ready and able to present forth a supportive front for all people. And I think that's one thing that the Satwiwa Native American Indian Culture Center really stands for, which is that it's a center for all nature, all cultures, and all people are welcome there. So.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Wait, that's really cool. All right, Katy. Why do you think it's important to preserve our public land?
Oh, I don't want to follow Eva. That was perfect. But she touched on diversity, and I think I know what she's talking about is diversity more like for what we all need and what we all as humans, like or are or feel. But it's sort of as a conservation biologist as well as a wildlife ecologist, I am trying to preserve biodiversity, and we're in an unprecedented biodiversity, not unprecedented, but we're in a big mass extinction right now. Wow. And preserving biodiversity is really important, especially surrounding in a place like Los Angeles, where habitat fragmentation and habitat loss has been occurring in the past. And so preserving what's left in the Santa Monica Mountains was the reason that the park was founded. And these big national or big state parks that are within our boundary, and we're these great partners, and we're all working together to preserve the habitat there, which will preserve, you know, the animals that live there and the plants and the insects and everything. And then that creates a fulfilling experience when we go and visit these sites, is that we hear the birds and we might see a rabbit, or we might, you know, and we see beautiful flowers, and that is just, you know, fuel for the soul. And that's why people love being outside.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Those are all wonderfully unique and just true answers, because our public parks lands are so important for a variety of reasons that mean a lot to a variety of different people. You guys, that was incredibly inspirational, and it's been so wonderful. And I'm kind of really sad that it's almost time to say goodbye. But before we do, we have to ask one more question that may really make a difference in the lives of those watching. And this is questions for everyone. So what do you wish you would have known early in your career with the National Park Service? And what is some advice you'd like to share with those contemplating careers in the parks? I feel like we keep making Katy go last. Katy, I know you just went. Do you want to go again?
Yeah, I'll go first. Be nice. And and there's a lot of rules. It is true, working for the federal government is a bureaucracy. I wish I had sort of accepted that and understood that a little bit earlier on.
That's great advice. Thank you. How about you, Eva?
Well, I think that the nice thing about being an archaeologist is you can enter it at any point in your life. I entered it later in my life. So that's sort of like the nice thing about archaeology. But, you know, it's getting back to what we've already mentioned, which was volunteering. It was because I was volunteering that I came to have being Navajo, I knew about my culture, but I didn't know about the local culture of the Chumash. And it helped me to expand my horizons. And then when, by volunteering, it helped me to give a part of myself that I knew was worth giving. Because I think as a Native woman, it's sometimes difficult, you know, like we've just recently had the nomination and acceptance of Deb Haaland as our new Department of Interior. Woo woo. She's New Mexican tribal person. And so it's just, you need to be nice, because going up or going down the ladder, you always need to be nice. But volunteering is a good way to start.
Thank you. So Jess, just a reminder the question, what do you wish you would have known early in your career with the National Park Service, and what is some advice you'd like to share with those contemplating careers in the parks?
I think it's been nice to know that the workforce is really small. And I don't think that means that there aren't a lot of positions. It's just, I think it's kind of like a niche job. And one of our smaller agencies, I think the workforce is about 20 to 22,000 nationwide. And that's not a lot for, like I said, over 400 parks. So I think, you know, knowing that going into it, that just goes to like, get as many connections as you can. Try to learn as much as possible from every ranger that you meet. And in the event that you do volunteer, just learn as much as you can and try to make the best educated decision that you can make on what kind of ranger you want to be. And once all that is, like, once you have decided to be a park ranger, just remember why you became a park ranger in the first place. Remember what attracts you to the job and the park. That'll make the rough days a little bit easier.
Thank you. What about you, Mary? What do you think?
I think what I probably now know that I would have liked to have known maybe earlier on is it's almost like channeling some Yoda into this one, but I think in college you spend so much time looking at like, when I'm done, I'm going to do this. When I'm done, I'm going to do this. But you never realize like there's opportunities right there in front of you. And if you don't take advantage of those opportunities when they're happening right then and there, you're going to get busy later on because life doesn't stop. And so I think that especially for anyone who's thinking about a career change or looking at this as a career path, like if the opportunity presents itself, take it. If you get a chance to do an internship, if you get a chance to be a volunteer, if you get a chance to do a seasonal stint in a place you never imagined yourself, try it. The great thing about seasonal work is it's not forever, and it is going to give you, for a temporary point in your life, something that you never thought you would be able to do, and you'll walk away with that experience changed for the better. So that's something I wish I had known younger on, is that like, stop looking at what's going to happen when you're done and focus on what's happening right now.
Oh, I think I'm gonna take that as personal advice. That's great. Thank you all so much. Oh my goodness, wow. Thank you for sharing your stories, your observations, your knowledge, and thank you to everyone for joining us today for today's panel with women of the National Park Service's Santa Monica Mountains Recreation Area, or SAMO. If you have questions we didn't cover tonight, or if you'd like to learn more about the National Park Service's Santa Monica Recreation Area or El Pueblo Historical Monument, reach out to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Santa Monica Mountains or at El Pueblo LA, and the info is in the chat, just so you'll have those links. Thank you so much, and just stay safe and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much to our panelists. That was amazing. Take care, everybody.